Hello and welcome, everybody. It is very exciting to be here. My name is Andrea Brockbank, and I am a registered nurse with over 40 years of experience. And I am so incredibly grateful to be joined here today by Dee Dawson, a midwife across the waters at New Zealand. I'm from Australia, and Penny Vaughan, who's also across the waters at New Zealand. Today, we thought we'd come together, have a conversation about an amazing technique that we have all been trained in, and it's called havening techniques. We'd like to share a little bit about this with you, give you a little bit of background information on havening techniques, especially for those people who have not heard of it before, and there's many, but it is growing. It's growing in popularity, and we're here to share our experiences with you and how we found it, how we've been able to use it in our practice, and also whether we would recommend it to other nurses and midwives, and just share our contact information if you want to know more at the end. So first of all, I would like to just hand it over to Dee to share a little bit about her background, her nursing midwifery background, and anything else you'd like to share just for our introductions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrea. It is a delight to be here today with you both. So yes, as Andrea mentioned, my name is Dee, and I have been a midwife for just over 30 years now. I am based in Auckland, and I have been a certified havening practitioner for, we're coming up 3 years in May. So I continue to hold an annual practicing certificate. I am still working as a midwife, as well as having a little havening practice where I see people privately, and that part of my work brings me the most joy.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Dee.
So good.
And Penny, would you like to share a little bit
I
about your
would
background?
love to, thank you. And thank you to Andrea for giving us this opportunity to come together and share this wonderful tool that we discovered in our lives. Now, I'm Penny, and I've been a havening practitioner for nearly 3 years and a practice nurse for nearly 25 years. So out in the community with a lot of GPs. And I'm based here in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton, New Zealand, and also on the East Coast on the beautiful beach at Whangamata. So I kind of dance between the two. I do a little bit of swapping roles and locations, but no matter where I am, there are lots of opportunities for havening, that's for sure.
That's beautiful, Penny. Thank you so much. And a little bit, I suppose, more about myself. I don't think I explained where I was from. I'm currently in Newcastle in New South Wales. I spent most of my life in Sunshine Coast in Queensland. My background in nursing is quite varied. So I have worked extensively, emergency departments, a lot of the acute areas. I've also worked extensively in community. I've worked on remote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. I've worked in nurse navigation, child protection, schools with adolescent young people. I've worked in women's health. I have worked in persistent pain, and just currently taking a bit of a break from the actual practice of nursing on the floor. My last role was persistent pain, which I finished in November last year, and just focusing at this stage of my life on some havening. So it's really exciting stuff. What Penny, Dee, and I would really like to acknowledge you for being here today, all nurses and midwives, and all people who care for other people. We definitely understand experientially, the nurses and midwives here, what the issues are that you live and work with every day, both within your work environment and then the struggles of taking that home. We are living with work and death, with life and death, I should say, I'm sorry. And that can be really challenging. And whilst there's different supports out there that can help you to manage and to live with that trauma that we often experience in this area, we're here today to share another one, and something that we think is really effective and has shown some incredible outcomes in a very short time for many, many people. And it's growing in its popularity. It's growing in the amount of research that's being done. And essentially what it creates is a safe place within us, and it's called havening techniques. And the word havening comes from that safe place that we can create within us. It's really powerful. It's been researched for over 20 years by two amazing doctors in the United States, Dr. Ron and Dr. Stephen Rudin. And initially they were, Dr. Ronald Rudin has a PhD in research, and he really wanted to understand what was going on in the brain when different forms of touch were applied to the body. And so they used functional MRIs and they used EEGs to try and work out, if different forms of touch were applied, what was going on up here, and could we actually influence trauma and where trauma is stored in the amygdala, and create better outcomes for people in their lives. And from all of that research and ongoing research, is havening techniques was born from that, originally called Delta. I think it was Delta techniques, was it? Or
it was the amygdala depotentiation technique, or something equally sciencey.
And that's because it's working on the amygdala, which is just, it's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. And what it does, it puts the power into your hands, essentially. So these doctors found that using the innate touch that mums use for babies, that we use for ourselves and for each other, like the first area of touch is the palms of the hands rubbing together. I think we all see other people, or we've done it ourselves, when we become really anxious, we can go like this, or maybe rub our palms on our thighs. And we do that because something inside of us already knows that this will soothe our nervous system. And what the doctors found was, as we do this, we're actually creating 5 times more delta waves in the brain. Pretty phenomenal. The next area they found was the shoulders down to the elbows. So just in the one direction. And when you're applying this touch to yourself, which we call self-havening, it's a firm pressure, and it's just probably 1 stroke per second. It's not too fast. We want to really slow down our whole nervous system and create safety there. And when we do this, what these doctors found in their research was they actually increased the amount of delta waves by up to 38 times. That's even more phenomenal. But the third place that we apply the touch is on our face. So if you've got glasses, please feel free to take them off. And we rub our faces and under our cheeks, just like you're washing your face. Or I don't know if you get stressed out. When I get really stressed out, sometimes I go, oh, like that. And so innately, the intelligence of my body, the healing of my body is already telling me that that touch will actually help soothe my nervous system. In doing this, we create up to 90 times more of those delta waves. So just to, if you're not familiar with the brain waves, it goes, gamma is the really high stress. So this can go like that sort of feeling. Then it goes down to beta, which is our thinking brain, our cognitive brain. Then it goes down to alpha and down to theta, and then right down to delta, which is really beautiful, long, slow waves, which make you feel really calm just thinking about them. I think anyway. And these waves are what does the amazing work that these doctors found in their research of depotentiating the trauma that can be stored in the amygdala. Also, it floods the brain and then invariably the body with the feel-good hormones. So the dopamine, oxytocin, GABA, and serotonin. And as these amazing hormones rise, what we find in neurobiology is that as they go up, all of our stress hormones go down. So our cortisol goes down. IgA, which is one of the major building blocks of our immune system, it goes up. So it's an awesome thing to do for yourself. Dee or Penny, have either of you got anything you'd like to add to that little description of havening techniques, just to give people here a bit of a background on it who don't already know about it or haven't heard about it?
No,
I'm thinking that was beautifully explained.
100%.
I suppose the only other thing I was thinking is it's a third pillar. So when we're dealing with issues of our own psychology, we've got the ways that we've traditionally been able to work with it. Like the first pillar would be our pharmacology, which, as we know, is our drugs, our medications, which, certainly have a place in this. We also have our psychotherapy, which is our talk therapy, and that's where most of our referrals, would you ladies say, would go? Yeah. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people who I've worked with have said, I don't want to tell my story anymore to anybody. I'm so tired of telling my story and talking about my story. So for some people, they're just exhausted with that pathway. And if they are, then the havening techniques can actually be worked content-free, which I think is a really powerful thing as well. We work with touch, like we've shown you, and that can be self-touch, as in self-havening, like we've all just demonstrated, but it can also be facilitated havening, where somebody else, a certified havening practitioner, and you can find the certified havening practitioners on havening.org, which is really important to make sure the person you're seeing does have the qualifications they're saying they do, so that your safety is assured. The third pillar is the psychosensory technique. So that's where we're using touch to change and alter our neurobiology and to create the neuroplasticity, which is amazing for our brain. And we know through lots of research that we can actually change that and heal. Pretty awesome. So I thought we would just, for anybody who's watching here today, just share a little bit about how we came across havening. Dee, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I guess a few years ago, one of the jobs I was working in was was working in a space where we were caring for vulnerable women who were birthing. And so this included women who had any number of vulnerabilities, really. Anything from being, someone as simple in a way as having a teen pregnancy who needed more support than someone who was mature, right through to caring for women who were victims of family harm, drug and alcohol abuse, maternal mental health vulnerabilities. And so I was working with a huge team of people around a table, and I just kind of had this epiphany where I just wanted to do more, be more, help more, learn more, because even though you're in a job for a very long time, we still don't know everything. And so I went down this really long road where I started off with a diploma in psychotherapy, which there were aspects of that I really enjoyed, and aspects of it I didn't enjoy at all. It felt quite cold and paternalistic to me, and we were sort of taught not to touch our clients. And when you're a nurse or a midwife, that feels very foreign, really. And then Christine and I, who had worked together in the past, Christine, who is the other half of Willow Therapy, she and I were having dinner one night, and she said, "Have you heard about this incredible technique?" And one of our old colleagues was training people how to do this incredible technique that was getting such good results. And so we got in touch with our esteemed colleague and a now retired anaesthetist, Robin Youngson, and he was training people in Raglan in New Zealand. And so we, boots and all, that's what we wanted. We were really attracted to this therapy because while it has a bit of a a title that's a little bit woo-woo, if you like, is deeply steeped in science and neuroscience, and that, you know, Christine and I, we're not really we've always been really interested in research and science as part of our midwifery, and so that really, really appealed to us. So it was kind of this whole unfolding of connections and events that led us down this amazing road of finding Havening and finding you two, because that's how I met you guys.
Thank you so much, Dee. And it has. I love to hear how you have had that experience in the past with the psychotherapy and just decided that you wanted more, like you needed further tools to be able to support your clients. And that's certainly what a lot of us have been hearing as we're talking to different nurses and midwives as well, that they want other tools as well that they can actually use, because there's not a one size fits all for anything that's out there. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. And just to let people know who are listening in, that Willow Therapy is actually Dee and Chris Meller, who's also a midwife, a doctor of midwifery. It's their beautiful little business. I have to apologise if anybody can hear. The neighbour outside has just started mowing the lawn. I apologise. I'll put myself on mute so it doesn't come through while Penny is sharing her beautiful experience of how she found Havening.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. I can't hear the lawnmower, but that's okay. That's all really good. Now, I heard Robin Youngson being interviewed, so he was my introduction as well. And I thought, wow, this just sounds too good to be true. But I knew that he'd come from a really strong evidence-based practice background in medicine. So I believed him. That gave him a lot of credibility, that he'd looked at the neuroscience that underpins this whole practice. And it is amazing, and it's so gentle and safe and effective. So I immediately thought of all the people I'd ever met in my entire life. And I admitted to say before, I think, that I'd worked in childbirth education as well, prior to becoming a practice nurse. So I was supporting women and their families through births before, during and after. And it's such a significant time. And they remembered what happened decades afterwards. So it was really powerful. And then at the time that I came across Robin's interview, my daughter had had a baby a few months previously, and she had said, that little bit of hay fever here, that she'd had a really traumatic time, an emergency cesarean, and baby was in neonatal intensive care and then taken home on oxygen for 6 weeks, and then subsequent hospitalisation, and then it was more and more, maybe surgery for her, and she couldn't eat and she couldn't sleep. She was just in a constant state of anxiety. And she said later that it felt like a constant sense of fear for her. She never knew what was happening next. And of course, it would have been adrenaline priming her body. So I took her to see Robin, and within an hour, she was a changed person. And she said that she went right back to the initial event, which would have been in the operating theatre for her, and that's what we do with Havening. And instead of being filled with fear and dread and horror, going back to that memory, she felt absolutely fine and trusted, calm, and it was filled with light. So the whole memory was filled with light for her, and that was transformative. So that was me hooked. And then, yeah, I was signing up for the training the next day. See what I can do with this. So how about you, Andrea? How did you hear about it?
Oh, thank you, Penny. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing that, because I think that story, like the example of your daughter, and I'm so sorry, because that would have been a really traumatic experience for all of you, I'm sure. But I think what it demonstrates is just the power and the swiftness of Havening to decouple the memory from the actual emotion and the feeling that's associated with it. And I love how you say how for her the whole memory was filled with light. So the transformation that occurs with that as well, and And then the ripple effects that has in somebody's life when something that was so traumatic can actually turn out to be something that's not.
That's right, yeah. So she could get on with her life and she could eat again in a calm state for digestion. She could sleep again and she could really enjoy every moment of every day with her baby.
Yeah, how powerful is that? Yeah. Thank you so much, Penny, for sharing that. For me, I was actually studying my Master of Nursing at the time, and I was doing the specialty I was doing was leadership and management. And Robin Youngson, once again, because we've all come together through Robin. Robin had been going around the world doing amazing work for compassionate care and compassionate leadership. And he was actually, like, a lot of his work was being presented to us within the leadership and the management part of my master's degree, and when I saw the work he was doing on compassionate care around the world, I was just like, this just resonated so strongly with me. It was definitely aligning with my values. And so I looked him up, and he was doing havening, and I was so intrigued because for so many years, even though we're in healthcare and we're caring for people, I could just see that medicine as we know it and the allopathic treatment pathway certainly has got its place, but there was so much that was being missed. And I was just intrigued, and the feedback he was giving regarding this havening practice and the results he was getting, the outcomes for people and the change in their lives, Penny, just like you shared, were absolutely incredible. And I wanted to know more. So I contacted him and I said, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to start studying with you. And that's where I met you beautiful ladies. Yes. Was at the training. I came to Raglan with you both and did the 5-day training with Robin. And that was, I think, just over 3 years ago. And it's been magnificent ever since. So that's how we all came through that beautiful, beautiful man. Who's transformed many lives through the havening practice. That's awesome. So going back around the three of us again, because I'd really like viewers to get an understanding of, after we've done this certification in havening, which is not just a walk in the park. Dee, you were saying how it's, not something woo-woo. It's actually based in neuroscience. We had to go through quite significant processes to get our certification. It wasn't just a simple 5-day workshop and hey, you're done. There were extensive science exams that we had to pass, and I think pass with 100%, if I remember clearly, or close to. And there was also, we had to do 30 case studies and present them and be assessed on those case studies and video case studies as well. So it was quite an extensive ordeal, but very much well worth it. So Dee, looking back over the time since you've done that training, how would you say you've integrated the havening into your own life and into your midwifery practice and into willow therapy?
So I guess in a number of different ways. Obviously, I treated my own family first, and I'm sure my lovely young son won't mind me telling the story, but he had a really nasty vomiting bug, actually, as a young boy, while we were on holiday, and he was really traumatized by that, to a point where he was feeling sick every day for about a year after that. And we ended up going to see pediatricians and multiple trips to the GP, and no one could find anything wrong with him. And then I did my havening certification, and I did one session on him and took him back to that awful time and used a very, very simple havening technique that we all learn at the beginning of our training. And he had no more nausea after that. Like it was literally it was like magic. And so, when you, as a new practitioner, you start having experiences like that, especially on someone like a child who isn't, who has no preconceived ideas about the therapy that you are doing on them, it really starts blowing you away. And so now, within Willow is set up. It has two major functions, really. The first is to care for women in the perinatal period. So these are also women who have had difficult or challenging fertility journeys. Women who've had miscarriages, so they might not even have a little baby in their arms, but are still very traumatized by the events that have happened. So we care for women like that. We care for women who have some antenatal anxiety, women who are bringing vulnerabilities into their pregnancy that are affecting how they feel about themselves and how the birth may go. So we see some women who suffer from something called tocophobia, which is it's a real recognized fear of birth. And when you start going deeper, you can find exactly where that fear is coming from. And so we treat them often with only one session. We recommend two as a minimum. So one is to deal with whatever the problem was to start with, wherever the root of the trauma is. And then the second one is to build resilience and to get women ready for birth. And then, of course, we see women after birth as well who have experienced what they call birth trauma, which is very subjective and can affect women and or their support people in many, many different ways. And what we really want to reinforce to other health professionals, nurses, midwives, doctors who are caring for women during the childbirth continuum is that the reason we're seeing women is not to fix what other health professionals have done to them or to fix what event may have happened in the birth. There might not have been any significant event, but the women are still traumatized because of something that they've brought in from their childhood. And so we often see women who have issues like a fear of abandonment, who've had episodes where they've been in hospital for other reasons as children, women with needle phobia. Lots of people with needle phobia. And you often find when you go digging deep within that actually they had tonsillitis as a 5-year-old and were on their own and didn't have mummy or daddy with them. And they were terrified when things were done to them in hospital. So there's never any blame with the women that we see. We're just trying to make them feel better. And so we see a lot of women in that space, lots and lots of postpartum anxiety. That seems to be something that is rising daily almost. And then the other part of our work is seeing our colleagues, our nurse, midwife, and doctor colleagues who have been traumatized at work for, again, a variety of different reasons. And so that's what we do at Willow. We also are certified in professional supervision. So we offer supervision, professional supervision, which really, supervision is an awful word because it makes it sound like you're being watched or supervised, but actually professional supervision is just a safe space. It's a formal contract, it's a formal arrangement where nurses and midwives come to see us, to sit down in a private and confidential and safe space and talk about work. And so sometimes havening comes into that because obviously there are times at work when our colleagues are traumatized. The work that they do, that we all do, is difficult and stressful and challenging, and stuff happens that is out of our control sometimes. And it affects how we feel about ourselves, how we work, how we connect with other human beings, how we connect with our colleagues, and also it affects the decisions that we end up making, the clinical decisions that we end up making, especially if we're coming from a place of fear. So a huge part of our work is really supporting our colleagues. And as I say, this is a part of my job that is just brings me immeasurable pleasure and joy to be able to do that. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what Willow Therapy is all about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Dee, you and I and Penny and I have spoken about it as well, separately, but we're talking the other day just about the stresses that nurses and midwives are living with every day and how that's just ramping up. Like I saw information the other day, violence in the workplace, like it's getting to the point that it's every day for a lot of nurses, especially in the emergency department. I'm not sure about in midwifery if it's actually quite significant there as well, because it's an area of really high emotion, isn't it?
Absolutely, and very definitely, and certainly in the birthing space, that's very much like an ED. These are not people who are coming in for planned surgery or planned admissions. People who come in the door and they bring with them whatever comes with them, whether that is anxious and stressed out family members, whether that is like dysfunctional families where there's family harm involved, and midwives certainly bear the brunt of that in a birthing space. That's very true. And I mean, midwives in New Zealand now, it's a 4-year degree. It's really long. It's very challenging. Many of our student midwives have got families themselves. It's very hard to also have a part-time job, because there's so much clinical, so they end up coming into the profession financially stressed as well. And they have about a 50% dropout rate within the 4-year program. So, a lot of the time they're starting with about 140 students and they might only end up with 70 going through at the end. And then there's about a 6-year lifespan for a new grad midwife. So, they're doing this massive degree and then they come out and there's so many challenges that they don't stay. So retention for nurses and midwives in New Zealand, and I'm sure it's the same in Australia, it's just, we've got to hang on to these people, these amazing people that we train and we desperately need and want and are desiring to have within our workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the number of people who are leaving nursing and midwifery is huge, and it is creating a global crisis, because it's not only in Australia and in New Zealand, it's right across the world. And the stresses are huge for nurses and midwives. I saw a beautiful quote the other day which really resonated. It said, and I'm not sure if I'll get it exactly right, but it'll be close. It said, to work in healthcare and expect not to be affected is like walking through water and not getting wet. And it was written by a pediatrician. And I just thought, that is so true, isn't it? And just your explanation and speaking about the midwives and the effects that it is having on them, and the student midwives as well. There are many I've worked with who have been incredible nurses, incredible midwives. And I think our tolerance is there to a certain degree, but then all of a sudden it can be not much at all. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back for us. And we're just seeing that more and more. So huge. Thank you so much, Dee. Penny, would you like to share with us and with people who are watching this, what your experience, like how you're actually integrating your havening? I know that you're doing some amazing things, how you're integrating this into your work practice and in your life.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. And that is so worthwhile, all that you're doing, Dee. It really, truly is. It's wonderful work. My practice has been a little bit different because I work from home and I, of course, administered to all the family and friends first and colleagues. And then all my work has been as word of mouth referrals. So I have such a wide variety of people coming to me, which is wonderful. And I'm constantly amazed at the effect that havening has. The events that our brains have encoded as a threat aren't always the car crashes and being chased by lions. And you referred to that too, Dee, that it's not. And sometimes curious observers might think that is not a significant event at all. But it's changed the way we see ourselves, and it's changed the way we live in the world. And that really affects us. So how powerful to be able to remove those emotional attachments to the trauma and be able to live your life in a different way. So it really does reprogram us. And I was thinking, what do I work with and what have I worked with? And of course, there's a lot of that event havening, we call it, when we remove those very specific emotional attachments, and life can change dramatically overnight, big, small, whatever. The meaning is always significant and big. So PTSD, anxiety, depression, phobias, anger, resentment, because it can all be portrayed in such very different ways, chronic pain, mast cell activation syndrome was one that I came across and incredibly helpful. Grief and sadness we don't ever haven for, because those are very necessary emotional responses. But people can be very traumatized by the circumstances surrounding death, or even finding out about a diagnosis. So hearing about your own diagnosis, that of a loved one, or finding a loved one who has passed, or someone you don't know who has passed. All of these events can be really significant for us, and I've found to be helped by havening. And another one I was thinking of too, with reprogramming, is that we're not defective in character if we have constant anxiety responses to things. There's nothing inherently wrong with us. It's just that our brains have programmed us to be super alert, hypervigilant, and that maybe the world's not a safe place to be. So our brains are constantly trying to protect us. And I see that all the time. So there is hope, always, always hope. And then I was also thinking about the can of worms that was mentioned before about the talk therapy. So many people are terrified of that, and they say as much. It is a can of worms to them, and they're horrified at the thought of opening that up and never being able to stuff them back in again. But havening, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Wherever those worms go, they're gone, and it's magic. And so I continue to be encouraged and motivated to just spread the word and do as much as I possibly can and make people aware of it. So this is such a good opportunity. Thank you, Andrea, for doing that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you so much, Penny. And I know you've done amazing, amazing work. And for people who are watching, Penny's actually done some havening with me. And I've got to tell you, it has been phenomenal. A big issue that I was living with, and that was very, very close to my heart and causing me a lot of worry and a lot of stress. And Penny did a beautiful havening session on Zoom with me. And I've got to tell you, at the end of it, I felt like I was actually just watching. I was an observer in this room where this specific incident happened rather than being in it. And that was emotionally powerful, and it has had flow-on effects for me, which have all been very positive. So thank you so much, Penny. I'm very, very grateful for that. And I'd say as well with the like Penny, you made a comment that the havening, it's just magic, but we know, like all of us know, that it's not actually magic, that there's real neuroscience behind it, like Dee was saying earlier. And if we had more time, we could explain that neuroscience. Unfortunately, we can't go into it right here and now. But if you have questions, please reach out to any of us. All of us would be very happy to answer those, and we'll give you our details at the end. But also you can find out more on havening.org, that website, and it's got some really great resources that have got a couple of videos that just explain it so beautifully, so you can understand what's going on and the changes that are happening with your brain, and particularly with the amygdala, which is that little part in your, it's like a little almond-shaped gland in your limbic brain where we store all those traumatic memories. So you can actually access that, and those amazing changes happen because of the Havening touch and the change in our neurobiology. So awesome. Thank you so much, Penny. Really appreciate that.
Welcome, Andrea. But let me just add here, though, that it is a process, isn't it? So we all say that we're so grateful that someone leads us through the process, but we're facilitating a process that has been proven. And, so really, that's what we are, aren't we? We're facilitators of self-healing.
Yes, I love that. And just activating that innate intelligence within the body.
It's certainly there.
Yeah, recognizing that it's there. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. So to just share a little bit, I suppose, about how I'm using it, I had some phenomenal results as well. Like, really, I've been astonished. Like, I've been like, wow, I didn't expect that. I've had one colleague came to see me and had a certain issue that they wanted to talk about and wanted to haven with. And through the course of it, we found that there were multiple layers, as we do as we're working through the havening and with those delta waves. Often it's just fun. It can be light, and with using the distractions, it can be a bit of fun and not too traumatic. But unknowing to me, this colleague had come with a frozen shoulder, and afterwards we had sat down together just to debrief the session, and they reached behind them onto a table where there was their water bottle had been, and went, oh my God, I can move my arm, I can move my shoulder. And we hadn't realized, but the deep layers had actually been attached to the traumatic memory which was causing the frozen shoulder. And I saw her, later on at work, like a few weeks later, and said, how's that shoulder? And there were no issues. It was all good. So it's quite phenomenal how quickly, and that's just one of many stories. I've also helped self-havening in one of my nursing roles, and we had client groups that came in for education. And so I would teach the clients, as part of the relaxation that we would use for their workshops that we worked with them to help settle down their nervous systems. I would teach them self-havening, and the feedback from the ones who'd actually used it and implemented that technique the following week when they came back was phenomenal. And it's now, even though I'm not there anymore in that position, my beautiful colleagues I was working with have taken that on, and they're continuing the teaching of, the self-havening for people who are coming in, so that they're actually able to access the technique for themselves and have that self-healing happen. So it's really powerful, and we don't ever want to underestimate what can be achieved through using it. Moving on from that, Dee, would you like to share with us some of the amazing research that you've been involved with the havening, and some of the outcomes of that? I know that you're working on a pilot study, is that right, with Dr. Christine Meller as well as Dr. Karen Lindsay?
Karen Lindsay, correct. Yeah. So Christine and I were fortunate enough to have been invited by Dr. Karen Lindsay to participate in our very own randomized controlled trial. Because we're seeing, anecdotally, we're seeing such amazing results. We're really, really, really determined to capture that in a robust way that is acceptable by the medical profession, if you like, so that we don't come across as being, I don't know, crystal gazing. I like crystals. I probably shouldn't use that as an example, but as being something that's just fly by night and not robust. So we were invited. This piece of research had started prior to Karen Christine and I getting involved, but everyone's so busy. The while the background work had all been done and all of the ethics approval had gone through, it was left dangling a little bit. And so Christine and I scooped it up, and we recruited 30 people, and we randomized them into 2 groups. So one group received a single havening session by Zoom, and the other group received a very nice, relaxing distraction type therapy, also by Zoom. So we were measuring, we were interested in 2 parts: whether or not Zoom was effective or as effective as being face-to-face. And the other thing that we really wanted to know was, how does the action of stimulating the skin in all of those key places, is that different to just using distraction and calm and relaxing in a calm and relaxing space? How do they differ from each other? So that's what we've done. We have just finished our final 6-week interview. So all of our participants, they filled out, for the quantitative part of the study, they filled out accepted and recognized assessment tools regarding their emotional and mental well-being. They did that at the beginning of the study, and then 2 weeks after a session, and then 6 weeks after a session. And all of our study participants did that. They were all blinded. No one knew where they were randomized into. And we've just finished our last 6-week interview. What we ended up doing halfway through the study, which was really interesting actually, was once we were at the end of our first 6 weeks of interviewing, we asked participants if they would like to remain blinded and have the second arm of the study, and then we could collect data for both sets. And that's been so interesting for us. What we found, I guess, we don't have all of our quantitative data analyzed yet, and I can only speak for the qualitative stuff because those are the interviews that I've helped to conduct. But what we found is that people who had a havening session first didn't feel that they really needed another session, so they politely declined and went on about their life. Some were a little bit interested, but definitely found that the havening session was way more effective in releasing their distressing memories around releasing their traumatic memory. Every single one of our participants was asked to just bring one distressing memory to the research that they could easily recall. That's all they needed to bring with them. The other really interesting part when we did crossover analysis was that many people who had the calm, lovely distraction type therapy to start with, they gave some really positive feedback, because they kind of were telling us that they really appreciated being in a safe environment with someone who was attentive, with someone who was obviously listening to their story, was kind and compassionate, who then also gave them a little tool that they could take away with them, which was a distraction tool. But once they had the second arm of the study, which did involve a havening session, they were just blown away. And it's been such a privilege to be a part of that study. It really has. I do know that, again, our esteemed colleague, Robin Youngson, did some data analysis of his own, and he was working specifically with women who had PTSD associated with their birth stories, the births of their babies. Some of those women had babies 20 years earlier and were still significantly negatively impacted by the births of their babies. And in a nutshell, what he did find is that after as little as 7 days after one single havening session, that there was a 75% reduction in symptoms. And he also used a very well used impact of events assessment tool to measure women's feelings and their own ideas about their ability to cope. So there's a lot of really amazing work being done, but what is also clear is that we need more research. It's hard to do, it's hard to pull off, it's hard to get funding. And the people who started our study off in particular, I have to take my hat off to them, because like even the first time they got turned down by ethics, and they just went back again and kept on trying because they felt like it was the right thing to do. And also, we're all busy, so it's research is a very difficult thing to fit in to an already busy life. So
Sure.
We're really excited, and we are just about to start all of our analysis now that we've just finished our last interview, and can't wait to share or publish our results later on.
Can't wait to hear about them and to read them as well. That would be so good, Dee. And Dr. Karen Lindsay, who is a consultant immunologist, or rheumatologist, I apologise, I know that she was also seeking examples and looking into needle phobia and wanting to do something in that realm. She's the doctor who's actually worked with you on the study. So that's going to be really exciting if anything happens with that, as far as healthcare is concerned, especially nursing and midwifery, because we're the ones who do the majority, I would say, of the needling. So
yeah, really, that's so true. And she's so passionate. This is we are so lucky to have her kudos and her own the level of credibility that she brings to havening as well. So we're very grateful, and as I say, very excited about what this means for havening. It's so awesome to have a local piece of research that's ours, that is from somewhere else. So
yeah, fantastic. Yeah. And for people who are interested as well, there's also some more published research papers about havening on havening.org. So there's quite a few there, and they are growing. So please don't hesitate to check those out if you'd like to have a little bit more of the scientific research behind it. And as Dee's saying as well, making sure that it is robust, and that we have got something that's really credible and based in neuroscience.
Totally. Yeah, just before you move on, Andrea, Dr. Christine Meller, and one of her colleagues, Dr. Susan Crowther, who's also a havening practitioner, they also completed a perinatal havening paper, which if people are interested, they can find on our website.
Yeah, awesome. So on that note, Dee, would you like to share, so while you've got the screen or the stage, so to speak, one thing I'd love to leave people with, because I know that we've been talking for a little while now, and I'd love them to know where they can go to get more information from us in particular, but also we've let them know about the havening.org site. Would you recommend havening to other nurses and midwives? Is probably my first question, which I already know the answer to. And the work that you're doing is already indicative that that's a huge yes. Yeah. But where can they find you? And you've already shared the work that you do in supporting not only mums, but also sharing the work and being the professional supervisor of nurses and midwives, which is beautiful work. So where can they find you, and what's your website? And I know that we'll be putting that in the link as we post this as well, but just so that they know from speaking with you here.
Amazing. Thank you, Andrea. Yes, we have our own website, which is www.willowtherapy.co.nz. But we also, really importantly for nurses and midwives, we also collaborate with a charity, a registered charity called Heart Place Hospital. So Heart Place Hospital is a beautiful charity. Their mantra is caring for the carers. And their CEO is a beautiful human being called Jackie. And Jackie is an ex-bedside nurse who literally had an epiphany and said, I've got to do more, I've got to be more. And so she and her husband, with the support of her husband, changed their lives, and they now run this registered charity for so Christine and I are one of the many practitioners that she has available at her fingertips. There is a portal on her website. If you just Google Heart Place Hospital, you'll find it, where all of the different practitioners are displayed for you to choose from. And Jackie's charity will fund sessions for nurses and midwives so that they don't have to.
Wow.
So she's amazing, because, goodness knows it's hard enough at the moment with all of the stuff happening on the planet and trying to earn a living and pay all our bills. I do find that many of my colleagues put themselves last, and certainly if money is an issue, they're not going to spend it on themselves. So
I'll ask you, for those watching, is that only a face-to-face appointment, or can that be done via Zoom as well?
100% via Zoom as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing that our research has uncovered too, is that the havening therapy is just as effective as face-to-face, as done over Zoom as it is face-to-face.
Yeah, that's important for a lot of people to understand and know that fact, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, if you live in a rural area and you can't get near a registered, a certified havening practitioner physically, you can do it digitally. And I know we learned that through COVID, but really, once you teach someone to stimulate their own skin in the right places and guide them through a session, they can feel amazing. They don't have to drive 1,000,000 miles or fight through traffic and get a parking ticket at the other end,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dee.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dee. Penny, would you like to share your recommendation to nurses and midwives, if you would suggest, which I know as well would be a definite huge yes, and where can they find you, and how do you work with nurses and midwives, or anyone who would like to access your services who might be watching this today?
Right. Well, firstly, I would like to say that havening is the best first aid ever. It's just so easy to coach someone to sit there like this in those high stress situations, and even talking about it afterwards, unwinding, and with patients and staff alike. So that's really, really valuable. And then, of course, going ahead and doing the deeper work and thinking about havening more events, and seeing someone professionally to do that, because as health professionals, we're not immune to challenges in our lives. And so we carry that with us. And when we're busy chasing lions in our head, we cannot work from that beautiful prefrontal cortex to solve problems. And my goodness, we need to do that every day. We not only want to be problem solving, but we want to be present and effective and bringing compassion to all our work. And that's really hard to do when you're preoccupied with all the other things that are going on in your lives. And my goodness, you can be so happy too. It can bring joy and release from the constant hypervigilance that health professionals so often carry. So yes, I'd say just go for it. Look it up, and what a wonderful tool to share with everyone, and then share with your family, share everywhere. And I can be found via my website, which is Restore My Calm, which is my hope for us all. RestoreMyCalm.com. And so I just try and meet the needs of anyone who comes anywhere near me.
And do a beautiful job at that as well, Penny.
Yeah, we all want to do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So thank you so much, Andrea, for this. And Dee.
You're welcome. Thank you, Penny. And just for those who, to tell you a little bit more about what I offer, my website is andreahaven.com.au, and I work with organisations to provide workshops for nurses and midwives, self-care workshops, integrating havening and self-havening techniques there. These workshops are either 90-minute, half a day, or a full day workshop. I also have a program that can be used for grief and loss, where we're able to support ourselves as well with self-havening through that program, which goes over 4 weeks. I also do online and face-to-face appointments as well. So if you would like to find out more, please check out my website, andreahaven.com.au. I've also got a free 21 days of self-havening videos there. That we know that you're really busy. We know that you're trying to fit in so much in your day. So these only go from about 5 minutes, I think is the shortest, to about 9 minutes. And it's just something you can access and be able to do yourself, and it does make a difference. I can tell you, I use it every day in my own life, and the difference that it makes is phenomenal. So I think that's it for us. We look forward to any questions that you might have. Please put them in the comments. Please add them to any social media that we post this conversation on. We would love to hear from you. Alternatively, if you go onto any of our websites, we have our email addresses there as well, and you're very welcome to reach out via email to us, and we would be more than happy to get back to you. We all really care. This isn't done off the bat. It's actually done from genuine heart-centered care from all of us, and we really, really want to support you. So thank you for listening to us today. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. If you'd like to hear more or see others come on, then we're really happy to support that as well. We hope you have a lovely day. Send so much love. And Dee and Penny, is there anything you wanted to say to finish off?
You've summed it up beautifully, Andrea.
Haven't you?
It's just been such a pleasure, and we really, really are here for you. If you've made it to the end of this video, well done, and please reach out if you need to. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Bye for now. Thank you so much, Dee and Penny. My heart.
Thank you, Andrea.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.